people can just hop off and see 39 other competitors just under shopping on Google, right? Or got to be a reason, not just price, just going after the price shopper is a losing tactic. Don't want to be the cheapest in town. You've got to find a way. There's a differentiator. Make sure there's some kind of differentiator.
You're listening to the Traffic Handler Podcast. We're about getting new customers, making more sales, and growing your e-commerce retail business. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. Today's guest is Kim Krause Schwalm. Kim is a legendary A-list copywriter. Her controls have beaten other great copywriters like Jim Rutz and Parris Lampropoulus. If you're in the copywriting circles, you know that's not a small deal. She spent more than 13 years in the corporate world in various marketing positions, from brand manager to publisher. She launched and ran the healthy drugs and supplement business and grew it to more than $23 million in sales within 3 years. And then she started her freelance copywriting career, and that was in 1998. Kim writes winning copy for leading companies such as Soundview, Boardroom, Green Valley Natural Solutions, National Geographic, and many others, both in the United States and England and Germany and Singapore. When you sign up for Kim's fantastic emails, you'll be one of her copy insiders, and she'll send you her 5-in-1 Ultimate A-List Copywriters promo checklist. Don't miss this. You're going to want it. But first, listen to the podcast. Kim's made a special offer to podcast listeners. So listen to the show, check out the show notes, and you'll see what I'm talking about. She shared some fantastic nuggets with us today, and be sure to check out her offer at the site after you listen. From a product perspective, can you talk to us about just a product and how you promote it?
Well, the first thing I do often is I want to try the product out. Okay, so the skincare cream, I'll get that. Like sometimes I even worked on some product that used energy waves, and it like you had this whole ritual with different things on your face that you'd put it, and it would help basically stimulate collagen, etc. Right? I have a whole cabinet full of supplements. I actually usually I take about a dozen different supplements every day. And so supplements are kind of near and dear to my heart. I have an air purifier in my office that I wrote a promotion for a few years ago. And it was kind of sweet because one of the first copy assignments I ever had when I first worked at Phillips Publishing as a marketer was to write copy for an air purifier. And we didn't think it was going to work. Just mailing as a little insert with the Health and Healing newsletter. And it was like almost $400. And that's when it kind of taught me initially the power of research, because I, not only did I interview the founder on the phone, but then they decided to send me to Buffalo, New York in the middle of winter to tour his factory. And I literally could have put one of these things together myself. And I relentlessly researched why it was all superior, better, et cetera. I wrote this 6-page insert, and it actually did really well. And they were like, whoa, we can sell a $400, newsletter, air purifier via a newsletter insert. So so research has been near and dear to my heart. And so it was kind of fun to kind of do this air purifier project, a year or two ago, because it's like, here I've come full circle now.
Right. Yeah. So you did that a year or two ago, which means that there may have been internet involved as well. Was there an online and an offline push, or was it all offline?
For the one I just recently wrote, that was strictly online. Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, the one I wrote quite a while ago is one of my initial assignments in the early 1990s. That was simply a little 6-page insert that, we would just basically, when that was on the whole alternative health market, just kind of opened up and took off. And Dr. Julian Whitaker had this highly successful newsletter that had 300,000 people. And so I was brought in as kind of, well, what else do these people want? How else can we serve them? Right. So we were almost like this alternative health testing lab. We just cut JV deals with different companies, like, oh, you have an interesting product, or sometimes we created our own things, and then just write the insert, throw it out there. And one of the great things about the environment there was like test. And if you're not failing enough, you're not trying enough new things.
Yes.
It was very safe to have bombs, right? That's how any company learns and grows quickly. And then what we discovered after 6 months and having some wins and definitely some huge bombs was, not only we gained all this great knowledge, but we knew that they really wanted his own supplements, the doctors recommended supplements. So I was asked to help launch their supplement business, got it launched within a few months. And within 3 years, just going to their list, it was over 23 million in sales, which is about 40 million in today's dollars.
Yeah, huge. And
your audience research.
Exactly. Right. And I was going to get to this later, but let's talk about your course, Research Beast, which I'm taking right now, which is absolutely brilliant. And I can't say enough good stuff about it. But, so what you're talking about is a promotion that was on paper that, didn't have internet support, but was going out to a list, and you have a list, whether you're online or offline, and how to promote that. So, I mean, man, my mind is just going in 8 million directions.
It's all the same techniques. It's the same.
Is.
You have endorsement power, for example. I don't know if anybody really calls it that, but like when you have your own list, or you have your customers who have bought from you before, which is like your golden treasure, right? You have a relationship that you want to, constantly strengthen and build on. You've mentioned that, you can't believe sometimes how much I give away in some of my emails to my list.
Yes.
It's all part of that relationship that we're building and establishing.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's really one of your business's greatest assets. And so, with Dr. Julian Whitaker, for example, there was, a huge magalog that would sell up front, like get his on his newsletter for $39, whatever. And he was, people were getting print newsletters back then. But again, they were like building trust, building a relationship with him. So then we came along and said, hey, we can give you his vitamins over here. It's like, just how do you leverage that? And as a way of extension of serving your customers and giving them, as our former president used to say, making them better off in ways they desire.
Yeah. Right. In ways they desire.
Yeah.
Which is the key to the whole thing.
And it's a noble calling.
It is. Right. So one of the things that has been coming up with client talks and, all sorts of things on my end is the difference between marketing, advertising, and selling. 3 different things, but they all go to the same end, is you're trying to help somebody. So with the supplements, for example, that you're talking about,
right?
I know that Dr. Julian Whitaker wasn't just selling one type of supplement. There were a variety of them.
Yep. Eventually.
And,
yep.
Right. So when you started that with them, because you were critically important in getting that line started and running, did you start with one? Did you have an idea that, this will be this massive conglomerate of, this collection of supplements? How did that start?
Well, it was basically just following what he already was putting out in the newsletter. We didn't drive it, he drove it. Like, it was what he was already recommending to his patients at his wellness institute in Newport Beach. In fact, he already had created some of his own formulas that he only sold to his patients. And so he would talk about, here's what you want to look for in a multivitamin. Well, it had like this long list of stuff that like, there's no way any multivitamin has, because that's what he really truly believed you needed. And in fact, they had a little welcome issue that everybody would get. It's like, here's the 7 steps to better health. And one of them was take a high potency multivitamin. And then he also recommended fish oil way back before anybody was recommending fish oil. And then like some kind of energy boosting supplement, which was potassium and magnesium aspartate, right? Again, a kind of a hard to find thing. So what we did was we basically we launched the company. We made, here's his core program. And believe it or not, his multivitamin called Forward you had to take 10 tablets a day, because that's how, because it was so much stuff that he wanted in a multi. And so we sold this whole program with the fish oil and the energy supplement for like $39.95 for a 1-month supply, that all kind of done for you, because people were like, how do I mix and match and do, all this? I can't find this, right? So here you go. Here it is. And you can follow his core program. And I mean, getting people to take a 14 pills a day. But they
Yeah,
did it because of the
compliance. I mean, that's
relationship.
got to
They
be,
wanted to follow his advice.
yes. Right, right. Which, why wouldn't you? I mean, he was
Yeah,
having a lot of success.
right.
I mean, I'm familiar with him, which is how I know that. But so with having to take 14 supplements a day, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely were a lot of people who just did the morning dose, because the
Mm,
2 dose a day, a lot of us, I know I don't even keep up with stuff like that, right?
yeah, that's hard.
But yeah, but I guess you asked, where did we get started? That was there's almost always a logical place to start. And then you can kind of go from there,
Mhm.
and then it was like, well, for a while there, I mean, he was always recommending other companies' products all the time. And it's so funny because I mean, they would make all of a sudden they'd like be besieged with phone calls because he just happened to recommend something in his newsletter one month and they'd get like a million orders. And so every once in a while we'd be like, we'll just carry that product on our, and offer it. Why not? We have a little catalog now. Now we've just started adding these other companies' products. And then eventually it just evolved to, well, let's see, he talks about, here's what you want for your prostate. Let's create his own prostate formula. And here's what he says you want for, maybe some heart health. So we'll have a cardio formula, right? So we just started to create more custom formulas based on his nutrient. It was never us saying to him, hey, you should recommend. No, he's the doctor. He was very much, we were over here, he was over there, separation of church and state, very much also from a compliance perspective. But that's how we operated, and it worked out pretty well. And then of course, after about 3 years, I got myself out of a job, not a job, because I had like 3 other job offers within the company. But I decided to leave after being kind of forced to hire a president of the company. Because I think the board was like, well, who's this 31-year-old woman, running like our biggest, most profitable, fastest growing division, and she has no supplement experience. So they ended up bringing in this old guy who was with some direct response vitamin company. And I kind of propped him up for about 3 or 4 months and just did everything for him, like his board presentations, etc. And then I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to another, one of the other, become an associate publisher in the other part of the company. Actually, I was working with Jay Abraham, which is pretty nice.
Oh, that must have been fun.
And like a week later, they fired him. And then someone else stepped in. But yeah, I mean, we could go on a whole tangent here, just being a young woman and dealing with all that. And then coming back from having my first child after launching yet another supplement line, and then basically being mommy tracked. So
Right.
I'm like, I think I'll give this copywriting thing a try.
Absolutely.
Worked out pretty well.
It worked out pretty well. Right. Exactly. So for anybody who doesn't know what an A-list copywriter is, Kim is one of the people that big publishers call when they want their mailers, whether online or offline at this point, to succeed. And she hits it out of the park, and so they say, thank you very much and pay accordingly. So it's good.
Well, what was so great about it, because I got into it, in part, obviously for the earning potential, but also for the lifestyle. I mean, I was working the 50+ hour work weeks. I was pregnant with my first child. I was like, you know what? Came back to work, found out I was mommy tracked, and just said, I think I can do this copywriting thing. Let me give it a go. And within, I walked out of a 6-figure a year job. And within the first year, I was making 50% more. Within a few years, I was making at least 3 times as much. And I was working 15 to like maybe 20, 25 hours a week.
Yes.
So it was perfect. And I just really feel lucky that I was able to do that for so many years.
Yeah, well, you did that at exactly the right time, because publishing was really at an amazing.
Yeah, it was already starting to wane a little bit. I mean, it wasn't that long into it where the direct mail the quantity started going down, the transition to online. So I've been doing online for at least 10, 15 years. I mean, there's definitely still been some direct mail, but it's, yeah, the people who were about 5 years ahead of me, or 10 years, like the Clayton Makepeace, they were at the golden time. But,
right. Yeah. I
But yeah,
love reading about those, but instead of going in that direction, let's go in the direction of you saw the value in the future for yourself as a woman in business. Let's go in
yeah.
that direction for a
Okay.
second, because I work with a lot of women, and it's almost like trailblazing. The bro marketers are like all over the place. I don't talk about this a whole lot, but I would love to have this conversation with you, because you and I have done things in business that, we're not worried about the bro marketers.
Well, I guess the people we might label bro marketers, I actually get along pretty darn well with. I mean, I've
Yeah.
mentored a lot of men,
Mhm.
as well as women. I have almost majority men, at least probably on my list. And,
Mhm.
it's probably at least 70% men that buy my products. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a different mentality, and not all men are like this. I mean, because I can think of so many exceptions off the top of my head, but there's the swagger, the bragging, showing off, you know, competitiveness, sometimes the over focus on that latest new trick, that trick or tactic or whatever, or there's, how much money they're making, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's almost like one reason why women tend to be better investors than men, right? Because the men are always going for that flashy, let me get rich quick kind of thing, so they can go brag to their friends, and they're jumping in and out, the market goes down, et cetera, right? And there's actually been studies to show women tend to just be like more level-headed and do better over time with their investments.
Yeah.
So you could say there's some stereotypes there. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but I definitely have dealt with some of the, like, I remember when I was first starting out as a copywriter, I've been doing it for a few years and running into a couple guys that were older than me that, had been freelance copywriters for a little while, and they were pretty successful. They used to work also at the company that I was at. And they were like, literally, like, at the time I wasn't doing the big promos yet. And they're like, so what are you working on? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing this, well, whatever it was, some back end, this and that. And they're kind of looking at me like they're looking down their nose at me. And they're like, well, copywriting is really hard. And it's a really hard field. It's almost like they're trying to talk me out of it. And then I ran into another guy who was maybe 10 years older than me. I was probably in my 30s, and he, at a conference, he's like, yeah, copywriters don't really even get good till they're like in their mid 40s or 50s. And, so these were kind of the things that I was getting told. And then within a few years, I'd gone up against the late Jim Rutz. I ended up beating him twice. I beat Parris Lampropoulus's unbeatable control for Boardroom. I became the first female copywriter to get a control. So all this was like really sweet. Like, it's like, yeah. And I wasn't even 40 yet. So, I was going to say it, but you know what I mean? You know what I was going to say? It's just like, I showed them,
Yes. Yes.
it's like, I even have this little t-shirt, and I think I know why now it appealed to me, but just says, prove them wrong.
Yes. Right. Words to live by. I love that, because anytime there's an example of really anyone who does anything well, it's not a boy girl thing, but it's like,
Yeah.
I love talking to you about this, because I know you have the chops, you've done the work, you've done your time, you got the gold medals to prove it. And, that's just cool.
But I also just like having that last laugh of, it was really almost degrading to come back from having all this success at this company, and then, come back from having my child, and I'd been moved to another position, and the boss didn't know what to do with me. And they were even complaining about my 100K a year salary to me. And, I was getting in a smaller and smaller office, and it was just like, I don't deserve to be treated like this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then to just feel like I had the last laugh 3 years later, when I was like, oh, guess what? I'm working half as much as you schmucks and making 3 times as much. So I guess
There you go. Right.
winning.
Winning big. Exactly. Today's episode is sponsored by Schema app for Shopify. Connect with customers at the beginning of their buying journey. Adding structured data to your Shopify store helps search engines better understand your website. This increases the chance of customers finding and purchasing products and services like yours. Get started today at schemaapp.com, schemaapp.com. So let's talk about what came next. I mean, you moved on,
I definitely
you
moved on,
tripled your income,
more than tripled. And
yeah, and
definitely
you,
started taking, I mean, I've taken off, like in 2019, I probably had almost 3 months off,
yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, I've definitely started to do less copywriting. I'm not really doing much client work at all right now.
Mhm.
I might team up with some of my mentees on things or bring them in to help with keeping some controls alive. But my main focus has been on my own business, which I started building without any kind of grand plan, 3, 4 years ago, with having a list and then just starting to offer a few training programs. And now I have a 6-month mentoring program that's wrapping up this month. And then in between, I do have a variety of courses, including the Research Beast course, which I just launched earlier this year. And so that's been really gratifying, in addition to just, the interactions I have with people on social media, and also on, who just email me back. I always respond to when I send my emails out, and just feeling like I'm really helping to just share the knowledge. There's no reason for me to just hang on to all this. I mean, I'm just going to give it away. Anybody that can benefit from it, or obviously not give it all away. There's stuff obviously in courses where I've spent a lot of time putting them together, the information, the training together. So obviously that's not all free, but yeah, it's kind of gratifying to be at this stage of my career. And then I'm also starting to do things that I've been wanting to get to. I mean, not just more travel now that we've got most of this COVID thing behind us, but
Mhm.
um, working on a screenplay, my first screenplay, and I've got ideas for at least 2 or 3 other ones that I want to
Yeah,
write. So,
it's really
that's been
exciting.
really exciting and gratifying, especially because so much of it has to do with a historical event to which I have a family connection. And I've been digging up so much interesting family history stuff.
That'll be fun to watch for. I mean,
Well, we'll see
you,
if it ever gets to that point. I may never make a penny off of it, but it's just something I got to do. And I'm just trying to give it my best shot. And
it's a new way to use the words.
the research skills have really come in handy. It's amazing.
I can't
It's
speak highly enough about Research Beast. I mean, if anyone's gonna, we've got so many people who, they're selling apparel, or they're selling home decor, or they're selling crafting items, things that you wouldn't think you could do anything with, but everything has something special, and you'd better differentiate in this day and
Of
age.
course, you have to. I mean, people can
Yes,
just hop off and see 39 other competitors just under shopping on Google, right?
right.
Or got to be a reason, not just price. Price, just going after the price shopper is a losing.
Yeah, don't go by
Don't want to
price.
be the cheapest in town. You've
Right.
got to find a way. There's a differentiator. Make sure there's some kind of differentiator.
Yeah.
But the other big part of that is really understanding who your prospect is, and being, developing that empathy for where they are and who they are.
Can you say more about this? Because I could think of half a dozen people off the top of my head right now who need some coaching in how to talk to your people.
It's really amazing because I review a lot of copy, with my mentoring program.
Mhm.
And, some of these people are more beginners, but many of them are pretty seasoned copywriters. And it's so easy to end up unintentionally insulting your prospect without realizing it. And, maybe because I've gotten to a certain age, but I look at this, but it's not necessarily just an age thing, but it's how you couch things with your copy. Like, you don't want to make assumptions about people. Like, you know, you really can't stand how your thighs look when you get in your bathing suit, and every time and you're, blah, 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 like maybe, and you think you're being empathetic, but it's like, excuse me, don't tell me my thighs are fat,
Right. Yeah.
you know, or maybe that's not where they feel is their issue. Maybe it's like they hate their flabby arms, or maybe it's something else, but it's always got to be perhaps, or maybe, or if you're like many women, or if you blah, 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 or it could even be a third person story. Like Mary hated how her thighs looked every time she put her bathing suit on, or whatever. But don't just come and say you and your big fat thighs, like, don't insult your prospect. That's just such a common mistake. People are like, oh, I did my research and I found out they don't like their thighs, and it's like, no, don't make those assumptions about me. Or,
Right.
or you can always almost tell sometimes, and I don't want to say it's just a man wrote it, but some of these beauty and skincare promotions, there was one I broke down a year and a half ago. You might remember it was this supposedly a very successful skincare serum like product. And it had this horrible story about the the daughter of, the
Yes.
daughter's boyfriend, right?
Yes. I
And
remember
they're
this.
serious, and he's like this great catch, supposedly, whatever. And then he meets the mother for the first time, and he breaks up with the daughter, and she asked why, and it's like, because your mom doesn't age well, and you might not either. And then the daughter's mad at the mom, and the mom feels all guilty. And I'm just like, hold it just a minute here.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, first off, you are so much better off without this guy.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
secondly, I'd be like, don't you get mad at me? I mean, anyway, I was so insulted by it. And then I even shared it kind of with this grown and flown copy, or like it's a parent group on Facebook. It's not like anything for copywriters or anything. And I just said, I saw this ad, and I don't know, I just curious what other people thought about it, right? It's mostly women, like in that same target age group. And everybody was just railing against it. But supposedly too, there's a whole other thing too, where people might say they react to something, but it's like, what do they actually do?
Right.
But apparently it was a fairly short-lived promotion. Thank goodness. But that's kind of a perfect example of being just really insensitive to who your prospect is. Back when I first worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield, we were also marketing to the older audience before I went to Phillips Publishing. We used to joke about, like, we make sure the marketing materials were big enough that people could read. And we would say to the designers, like, you put Vaseline on your eyeglasses, right? And you look at it, can you read it? Because it's literally, trying to be empathetic with, it's just a good analogy I always think about, like looking at it through your prospect's eyes. How do they feel when they read this?
And in that case, literally, your prospect's eyes. Can they read?
Yeah, can they even read it? Which is yet another thing too. It's not just the copy, but the design.
Right.
Oh, don't even get me started with that. There's so much stuff just online, and you get these designers are just, everything has to look so pretty, and it's like, I can't effing read this font, right? All this reversed out white copy on a light background. Like, no one can read that. I'm sorry, I don't even need reading glasses, and I can't read that.
Well, I do wear glasses, and they're twice as thick as they were a year ago, and I can't read anything. And if it's white on a black background, you can just about forget about it.
Right.
I can't see it.
So there's a whole lot of design tactics too. We could probably do another whole call on, or maybe you want to bring Lori Howler or some other really great graphic designer on, because it's amazing how you could have the perfect messaging, the perfect research, the perfect product, and no one can freaking read it or really get. I mean, why would you want to hamstring yourself with bad design?
Yeah. And there are so many moving parts. So there's the words of the offer, there's the offer of the offer, like everything goes into the offer, who you're offering to, how it's presented.
Yes. It's like a big giant complex soup.
You're
putting everything in.
It's a soup. Well, good. So everything, all of the offers and everything that you have going, we're going to put that in the show notes. So if people want to find out about Research Beast, and I would highly encourage everyone who's listening to the show today to get Research Beast if you do any writing at all. But you also offer copywriting velocity and $1 Million controls. Can you talk about either one of those briefly? Because
Sure.
I want to offer those as well for you.
Yeah, copywriting velocity is a foundational course on like everything you need to write a new promotion, soup to nuts. And it doesn't really matter what kind of promotion you're writing. It could be a sales letter, it could be an email, could be a sales page. But I walk you through my process. There's targeted training, like within different modules on headlines, leads, bullets, and offers and closes. There's a few really great interviews in there. So it really, anybody from beginner to advanced can benefit from that. And then I have my $1 Million controls, which is where I walk through like 6 plus 2 other bonus breakdowns of some of my most successful controls that I've written over the last 20 plus years. And I take you through the entire process, how I did my research, how I came up with the big idea, how I analyzed what I was up against in terms of whatever their control promo, and basically, dissect the whole promotion. So each of these breakdowns are like at least an hour to an hour and a half long. And then there's even supplement copy compliance training and some other really great bonuses as well in that program.
Phenomenal.
And that, if you're a complete beginner, it might be a little over your head. You kind of just at least need to have some familiarity with copy to kind of jump in for that one.
I can't recommend these highly enough, because even when you're selling on e-commerce, like you have a Shopify store, you have Facebook ads, you have emails that you're putting out, the information that Kim is talking about applies. This is a cross-training episode. This is like,
this is all classic stuff.
This is classic stuff. This is principles and essentials. Content
you can truly apply. I mean, people just in my mentoring group over the last 3 years, it's everything from agency owners to people doing Facebook ads, to, people who write long form copy. I mean, and everything in between, people who write B2B copy, people who write, it's not just supplement long form copy, for example.
Right.
So yeah.
But I don't even think you could say just, X. It isn't just X. It's everything you're talking about applies, because you need to have product descriptions, you need to have collection descriptions, and these aren't just, here's a pretty thing. So what?
I see a lot of advertising like that these days. It's I mean, I just sent out a breakdown to my list this morning. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it.
I did. I saw it. I loved it.
3 different, I think I have them right here, but I have like what I called it, like the good, the bad.
It was.
And the freaky. Oops.
Totally freaky.
Very freaky.
What are they wearing?
Good point. It's actually some kind of bladder control thing.
Yeah. So, well, I loved the email. I love the breakdown. I love just everything you do with that. So everybody listening needs to get on Kim's list. And we'll have all the how to do that, links to click, make it really easy in the show notes.
And you got a free checklist, which is just an amazing checklist. People can't believe I give it away. It's like 5 checklists in one.
And you updated it recently. That was, it was good. Now it's gooder. I mean,
it looks great. Yeah, it's got more of a nicely designed layout to make it easier. You'll want to print it off and keep it right by your computer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Kim, thank you so much. We keep this short and easy. I'm so grateful that you were here today, and always enjoy talking with you.
Oh, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Amy. I love what you're doing with this podcast.
Thanks, Kim. We'll have you back again soon. Thanks.
So, I look forward to it.
You've been listening to the Traffic Handler podcast. We're about getting new customers, making more sales, and building your e-commerce retail business. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. Get more at amybiddle.me. And until next time, go sell more stuff.